Attraction, my dear, has never been about the symmetry of a face or the fleeting charm of a passing glance. It is something deeper, something quieter, something that lingers long after you have left the room. It is the energy you carry when you choose yourself without apology, the warmth in your voice when you speak with intention, and the peace you protect within your soul. You see, the world has tried to teach us that beauty must be chaste, crafted, and proven, but the truth stands still and whispers otherwise. The most magnetic people are not the ones who try the hardest to be seen, but the ones who have learned the simple, powerful habits of being fully, unapologetically themselves. And once you understand this, you will realize that attraction is not something you earn from others. It is something you awaken within. True attraction begins where self-respect quietly lives, in the unseen corners of your daily choices, in the way you refuse to shrink yourself just to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold your spirit. It is not announced with noise, nor does it beg for attention. It moves gently, like a steady heartbeat, reminding you that your value does not rise and fall with someone else's approval. When you begin to honor your own boundaries, when you learn to say no without guilt and yes without fear, something within you settles. And in that stillness, a quiet power is born, one that people can feel, even if they cannot name it. You see, self-respect is not about perfection. It is about alignment. It is about waking up each day and choosing not to abandon yourself, even when it would be easier to do so. There will be moments when the world asks you to compromise your truth for comfort, to trade your dignity for acceptance. But the most attractive souls are the ones who stand firm, not with arrogance, but with a deep and rooted knowing of who they are. They do not chase validation because they have already given it to themselves, and that in itself becomes a rare and radiant kind of beauty. When you carry self-respect, your presence begins to change. You walk differently, not faster or louder, but with intention. Your words carry weight not because you speak more, but because you speak with meaning. Even your silence begins to speak for you, telling the world that you are not available for anything that diminishes your light. And in a world that often rewards noise, this quiet strength becomes magnetic. People are drawn not to what you demand, but to what you naturally embody. There is something profoundly attractive about a person who treats themselves with care. It shows in the way you protect your peace, in the way you refuse to entertain what disturbs your spirit, and in the way you give yourself the same kindness you so freely offer to others. It is not selfish, it is sacred, because when you learn to hold yourself with respect, you teach others how to hold you too. You set a standard not through force, but through example, and those who cannot meet it will quietly fall away. And perhaps the most beautiful part of all is this: when your attraction is rooted in self-respect, it does not fade with time or circumstance. It is not dependent on trends, nor is it shaken by rejection. It becomes a steady flame within you, one that cannot be dimmed by the opinions of others. So you no longer seek to be chosen. You become the one who chooses. And in that shift, in that quiet reclaiming of yourself, you discover a truth that changes everything. The more you respect who you are, the more the world is compelled to do the same. Kindness is a language that asks for no translation, yet it is understood by every heart it touches. It is not measured in grand gestures or loud declarations, but in the quiet, deliberate ways you choose to move through the world. It lives in your patience when someone else is struggling to find their way, in your gentle words when harshness would be easier, and in your willingness to see people not for what they show, but for what they carry within. There is a softness in kindness, yes, but do not mistake it for weakness. It is a strength that requires awareness, restraint, and a deep understanding of humanity. You see, in a world that often rushes past pain, kindness pauses. It notices the trembling behind a smile, the silence behind a voice that once spoke freely. And when you choose to respond with compassion instead of indifference, you create a space where others feel safe to exist as they are. That feeling, that sense of being seen without judgment, is something people do not forget. It lingers long after the moment has passed, becoming a quiet echo in their memory of you. There is something undeniably attractive about a person who makes others feel valued without trying to prove anything at all. It is in the way you listen, not just to respond, but to understand. It is in the way you offer your presence fully, without distraction or impatience. When you give someone that rare gift of genuine attention, you tell them, without saying a word, that they matter. And in return, they are drawn to you, not because you demanded it, but because you created a feeling they wish to return to. Kindness also reflects the relationship you have with yourself. When you are gentle with your own flaws, when you forgive your own mistakes, that grace naturally extends outward. You no longer feel the need to judge harshly or speak carelessly, because you understand that everyone is navigating something unseen. And that understanding shapes your energy in a way that feels warm, steady, and inviting. People are not only drawn to how you treat them, but to how you carry yourself in the presence of imperfection. But kindness is not about losing yourself in others. It does not ask you to accept disrespect or to silence your own needs. True kindness includes boundaries. It knows when to give and when to step back. It is honest without being cruel, firm without being cold. And in that balance, it becomes even more powerful because it is rooted in both compassion and self-awareness. So when you choose kindness, you are not simply being nice, you are shaping the atmosphere around you. You are becoming a presence that soothes, uplifts, and inspires without effort. And in a world where many are searching to be understood, your kindness becomes a quiet light that draws them in. Not because you tried to be attractive, but because you chose to be human in the most beautiful way. Confidence is not loud. It is the calm certainty of your worth, the quiet understanding that you do not need to prove yourself to be enough. It does not arrive with noise or demand attention with restless energy. Instead, it settles within you, steady and unshaken, like a deep breath that reminds you who you are. It is found in the way you carry your name with pride, in the way you stand in your truth without seeking permission, and in the way you no longer feel the need to explain your existence to anyone who refuses to understand it. You see, the world often mistakes confidence for volume. It celebrates the loudest voice in the room, the boldest display, the most visible presence. But true confidence does not compete. It does not need to. It knows that worth is not a performance, and value is not something to be argued or displayed for applause. A confident soul walks into a room and does not ask, "Will they accept me?" but instead lives in the quiet knowing of, "I accept myself." And that subtle shift changes everything. There is a certain beauty in someone who is at ease with themselves. It shows in the way they do not rush to fill every silence, in the way they are comfortable being seen without pretense, and in the way they allow others to shine without feeling diminished. Confidence does not fear comparison because it understands that what is meant for you cannot be taken. It releases the need to compete and replaces it with a quiet focus on growth, on becoming more of who you already are. When you are grounded in this kind of confidence, your presence becomes effortless. You no longer chase attention, yet it finds you. You no longer seek validation, yet people offer it freely, not because you demanded it, but because your energy speaks before your words ever do. There is something deeply attractive about a person who is not trying to be impressive, but simply chooses to be authentic. That authenticity creates a sense of ease, a space where others feel they can be themselves too. And perhaps the most powerful part of confidence is its resilience. It does not crumble at rejection, nor does it fade in the face of doubt. It listens, it learns, but it does not lose itself. You begin to understand that not every door is meant to open for you, and not every opinion is meant to define you. And instead of shrinking, you remain steady, trusting that your worth is not decided by who stays or who leaves. So you stop performing and you start living. You stop asking for approval and you start making choices that align with your spirit. And in doing so, you become quietly magnetic, not because you tried to be seen, but because you finally saw yourself clearly. The way you listen can be more beautiful than the way you speak, because in listening, you offer something rare, your full presence. Not the distracted kind that nods while the mind wanders elsewhere, but the kind that leans in, that receives another person's words as if they matter because they do. In a world where so many are eager to be heard, there is a quiet grace in choosing to hear instead. It is a gentle act, yet it carries a depth that words alone often cannot reach. You see, listening is not simply about silence, it is about intention. It is about setting aside your need to respond, to correct, or to impress, and instead allowing someone else to unfold before you without interruption. When you truly listen, you create a space where people feel safe to be honest, to be vulnerable, to be real. And that feeling, that sense of being received without judgment, becomes something they associate with you. It becomes a part of your presence, something they are drawn to without fully understanding why. There is a certain beauty in someone who does not rush to speak. It shows a patience, a confidence, and a respect that cannot be imitated by clever words or rehearsed charm. You begin to notice what others overlook, the pauses, the emotions behind the sentences, the meaning hidden between the lines. And when you respond, it is no longer from assumption, but from understanding. Your words carry more weight, not because you speak more, but because you have listened well enough to speak with care. People remember how you make them feel, and few things are as powerful as making someone feel heard. It tells them that their voice matters, that their experiences are not invisible, that they are not alone in their thoughts. In that moment, you are not trying to shine, you are allowing someone else to shine, and that humility becomes its own kind of light. It is not loud, but it is deeply felt, and it leaves an impression that lingers long after the conversation ends. But listening also requires discipline. It asks you to quiet the voice within that is eager to interrupt, to relate everything back to your own story, or to offer solutions before understanding the problem. It asks you to be present, not just physically, but emotionally. And when you practice this kind of listening, you begin to build deeper connections, not through effort, but through sincerity. So you learn that attraction is not always in what you say, but in how you receive. It is in the calm attention you give, the respect you show, and the space you hold for others to simply be. And in doing so, you become someone people trust, someone they return to, not because you spoke the loudest, but because you listened in a way that made them feel truly seen. Consistency in small actions builds a presence that draws others in, not because it dazzles in a single moment, but because it proves itself over time. It is easy to be impressive once, to say the right words when the moment is watching, to show up when it is convenient. But there is a deeper kind of beauty in the one who shows up again and again, even when no one is applauding, even when the effort goes unseen. That quiet reliability becomes a rhythm, and people begin to trust not just what you say, but who you are. You see, it is not the grand gestures that define you, it is the pattern of your days. It is the way you keep your word, even in the smallest promises. It is the way you treat people with the same respect whether they can offer you something or not. It is in your discipline, your follow-through, your willingness to remain steady when life becomes uncertain. These small actions may seem ordinary, but when repeated with intention, they create something extraordinary, a sense of dependability that others feel safe around. There is something deeply attractive about a person who is consistent, because consistency removes doubt. It allows others to relax in your presence, knowing they do not have to question your character or guess your intentions. You become someone who is not driven by fleeting emotions or temporary moods, but by values that remain rooted. And in a world where unpredictability often causes distance, your steadiness becomes a place of comfort. Consistency also speaks to your relationship with yourself. It shows that you are not only motivated when you feel inspired, but committed even when you do not. You begin to understand that growth is not built in moments of intensity, but in moments of repetition. It is the quiet decision to keep going, to keep improving, to keep honoring your path, even when progress feels slow. And over time, that discipline shapes you into someone whose presence feels grounded, someone who does not easily drift or lose direction. People are drawn to what feels real, and consistency makes you real. It removes the illusion and replaces it with truth. You are no longer someone who appears only in flashes of brilliance, but someone who can be counted on in the ordinary, everyday moments that truly matter. And it is in those moments that connections are formed, trust is built, and respect is earned without force. So you learn to value the small things, the habits, the routines, the choices that seem insignificant on their own. Because together they create a presence that speaks before you even say a word. A presence that says, I am steady, I am reliable, I am here. And without trying to attract anyone at all, you become someone people naturally gravitate toward, not for what you promise, but for what you consistently prove. A peaceful mind creates an irresistible energy, one that cannot be manufactured or imitated, only cultivated through quiet and intentional living. It is not something you wear on the outside, but something you carry within, shaping the way you see the world and how the world in turn responds to you. While others may chase attention through noise and urgency, a peaceful mind moves differently. It does not rush, it does not force, and it does not seek to prove. Instead, it rests in a calm awareness that everything does not need to be controlled to be understood. You see, there is a certain grace in someone who is not easily disturbed. Life will always bring its share of chaos, its unexpected turns, its moments of tension and uncertainty. But when your mind is at peace, you are no longer pulled in every direction by every passing storm. You learn to observe without absorbing, to respond without reacting, and to remain steady even when the ground beneath you feels unsteady. That calm becomes a quiet strength, one that others can feel even before you speak. People are naturally drawn to peace because it is so rare. In a world filled with constant comparison, endless noise, and restless energy, a peaceful presence feels like a place of rest. It is in the way you do not engage in unnecessary conflict, in the way you choose understanding over argument, and in the way you protect your inner space from things that drain rather than nourish you. This does not mean you avoid reality. It means you face it with clarity rather than chaos. A peaceful mind also changes the way you carry yourself. Your words become more thoughtful, your actions more intentional, and your reactions more measured. You no longer feel the need to prove your point in every situation or to win every disagreement. There is a quiet confidence in knowing that not everything deserves your energy. And that discernment, that ability to choose where your attention goes, becomes a powerful form of self-respect. But peace is not something that simply appears. It is something you practice. It is found in the boundaries you set, in the thoughts you choose not to entertain, and in the moments you allow yourself to pause instead of react. It is built in the small decisions, to let go of what you cannot control, to forgive what you cannot change, and to focus on what truly matters. Over time, these choices create a mind that is less cluttered, less burdened, and more present. And when you carry that kind of peace within you, it begins to radiate outward. It softens your presence without weakening it, and it strengthens your spirit without hardening it. People feel it when they are around you, a sense that they can breathe a little easier, think a little clearer, simply by being near you. And without ever trying to attract anyone, you become someone others are drawn to, not because you demanded their attention, but because your peace gave them something they did not even realize they were searching for. The habit of lifting others makes you unforgettable, not because you stand above them, but because you choose to rise in a way that brings others with you. There is a quiet power in being the person who notices potential where others see flaws, who speaks encouragement where others offer doubt, and who celebrates growth without feeling threatened by it. This kind of presence does not compete, it contributes, and in doing so, it leaves an imprint on the hearts of those you touch. You see, many people move through life seeking to be recognized, to be praised, to be remembered, but the ones who are truly unforgettable are not those who demanded the spotlight, but those who made others feel like they belonged in it too. When you take the time to uplift someone, to acknowledge their effort, to remind them of their worth, or simply to stand beside them in their moment of uncertainty, you create something deeper than admiration. You create connection. And connection once felt is rarely forgotten. There is something deeply attractive about a person who is not intimidated by the success or strength of others. Instead of comparison, you choose appreciation. Instead of competition, you choose encouragement. And in that choice, you reveal a confidence that runs deeper than appearances. It shows that you are secure enough within yourself to recognize greatness in someone else without feeling diminished. That kind of energy is rare, and because it is rare, it is powerful. Lifting others does not always require grand gestures. Often it is found in the smallest moments. A sincere compliment, a word of support at the right time, a quiet belief in someone when they have lost faith in themselves. These moments may seem fleeting, but they carry weight. They can shift someone's perspective, restore their confidence, and remind them that they are not alone in their journey. And long after the moment has passed, they will remember how you made them feel. But this habit is not about losing yourself in others or ignoring your own path. It is about understanding that your light does not dim when you help someone else shine. In fact, it grows stronger, because when you give from a place of authenticity, without expecting anything in return, you align yourself with something greater than validation. You align yourself with purpose, and that purpose adds depth to your presence in a way that no surface-level charm ever could. So you begin to move differently. You look for opportunities to encourage rather than criticize, to support rather than compete, to build rather than break. And in doing so, you become more than just someone people admire. You become someone they remember, not for what you had or what you achieved, but for how you made them feel about themselves. And that, more than anything else, is what makes a person truly, beautifully unforgettable. When you honor yourself, the world learns how to honor you too, not because you demand it, but because you quietly demonstrate what is acceptable in your presence. It begins in the private moments, in the choices no one else sees, the way you speak to yourself when you fall short, the way you refuse to tolerate what unsettles your spirit, the way you hold on to your dignity even when it would be easier to let it slip. Self-honor is not a performance. It is a commitment, one that shapes your life from the inside out. You see, people often believe respect must be earned from others first, but the truth moves in the opposite direction. The standard you set for yourself becomes the standard others follow. If you constantly overlook your own needs, silence your own voice, or accept less than you deserve, the world will mirror that behavior back to you. But when you begin to treat yourself with care, with patience, and with unwavering respect, something shifts. You no longer wait to be valued. You become the one who defines your value. There is a quiet strength in someone who knows their worth without needing to announce it. It shows in the way you walk away from what does not align with you, not out of pride, but out of clarity. It shows in the way you no longer chase approval or beg for understanding. You begin to realize that not everyone is meant to see you fully, and that is not a reflection of your worth, but of their capacity. And instead of shrinking to fit their limitations, you stand in your truth with grace. Honoring yourself also means being accountable to your own growth. It is not about placing yourself above others, but about refusing to abandon your own standards. You hold yourself to a level of integrity that does not change depending on who is watching. You keep your promises to yourself, you protect your time and energy, and you choose what aligns with your values, even when it is difficult. And through this consistency, you build a relationship with yourself that is rooted in trust. People can feel this kind of self-respect without you ever having to explain it. It is in your presence, in your boundaries, in the way you respond rather than react. You no longer entertain what disrespects you, not with anger, but with distance. And that distance speaks louder than any argument ever could. It teaches others, without words, how you are to be treated. And those who cannot meet that standard will naturally fall away, making space for those who can. In the end, honoring yourself is not about changing the world. It is about changing the way you exist within it. And when you do, the world cannot help but respond differently, because you are no longer asking for respect. You are living in a way that makes it inevitable.